Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, I'm getting some thumbs up. Just jumped off our coaching call, so we're going to get a couple minutes here. I'm going to get the PowerPoint up. Got a little bit of a PowerPoint today. You are free to so here's what we're talking about today. If we've talked about it on coaching calls, we're going to talk about timeline, follow-up timelines. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of some. So if you guys want to unmute and we want to talk about anything specific on the call today, how to follow up on a training at a real estate office, or I've had several people that are targeting builders now. So what's the follow-up plan to stay in touch with builders? I just want to open it up, and the mastermind part of this is to bring whatever you guys think you're working on so we could talk about something real life and help you guys understand how to set these processes up. So who's working on anything that you're kind of wanting some good ideas on? What would be a good timeline follow-up? What would that look like, etc.? Anybody have a targeting group that they're working on?
Trying to work with a real estate agent group that's Remax All-Star here locally, and just trying to get some agents out of that office. I went, golfing with the broker and one of the agents, a couple of the agents that work out of there yesterday. So just trying to establish a relationship with them.
So is that a team, or is that a brokerage that you've got individual agents in that brokerage you're working
on? It's a brokerage with individual agents.
Gotcha.
And the broker.
Gotcha. Cool. We are definitely going to cover that one, Jason. Anybody else looking for a specific group? Or here's what I say: anything and everything you're doing every day to generate new business, if you just kind of put it in that perspective, if there's any source that you're focused on getting new business from, what's that source? And we're going to do some example timelines around that on how I would say you get the best results out of it.
I'd like to see if we could talk about builders.
Okay.
In our market specifically, and I know Jordan can contest to this, all the builders seem to be wrapped up with some preferred lenders. So it's almost impossible to get it even a foot in the door. So I tried a gazillion different ways to try to get in the door to have a conversation, but it doesn't seem like they're willing to have that conversation because who they're wrapped up with. I don't know if they're getting paid on the back end. I'm not sure what the scenario is, but a conversation like that would be great.
Awesome. We can definitely cover that one. Absolutely. All right. Okay, well, let's anybody else have anything they want to throw in? I don't want to miss a group out because we'll go through about 4 or 5 different examples. And what I'm pretty confident you'll all take away from this is you'll start thinking about everything you're doing a little differently now and being more on purpose to cash in on it. So let me give John, do you have something you want to add or ask, or should I mute you out? All right, he had some background noise. So, all right, cool. All right, you guys good to go? Let's do this. All right. I'm going to set this up real quick. I'm going to go through these PowerPoints pretty fast. Oh, and let me see. I got to share my screen with you guys too, because right now you're just looking at my pretty face, aren't you? Let me find you guys here.
Pretty, oh, so pretty and witty.
All right, we're going to share this screen right here. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to run through a couple things and just kind of set this timeline thing up if it goes right. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to run through this pretty fast so we can get into some actual examples and stuff and get you out of here in an hour. So the question is, what business are we in, right? Are you in the mortgage? What business are you guys in? Relationship business. Yep. Yeah, a lot of people look at this and go, well, and actually, I don't even know that that is a good answer, but you're in a different type of business than that. If you looked at all of these, mortgage business, real estate business, broker business, commercial business, we're all in the same business. We are in the lead generation business. It doesn't matter if you're a shoe manufacturer, if you're Nike tennis shoes, Adidas tennis shoes, you have to have leads. You have to have stores that want your shoes to stock the shoes. So we're actually all generating leads every single day. It doesn't matter what business you're in. So keep that in mind as we go through this process. And it's about feeding the database every day. I can't let that one go because it is so core, coaching thousands of business owners, and mostly in mortgage and real estate. But if you're not feeding your database every day, Michael Gerber says in E-Myth, and whether you've read E-Myth or not, you guys can probably fill in the blank. If your business isn't growing, it's what? Have you guys heard this saying before?
Dying.
What's that?
It's not
Dying.
growing, it's dying.
Yep. If your business isn't growing, it's dying. So one of the things that I did early on was I took that as, well, if I'm not feeding my database, feeding my list of people every single day and being on purpose about following up with them, we're doing so much work on the front end to get the relationship started. We are in a relationship business, but everybody, I mean, the most common thing stated throughout all the industries is, but we suck at follow-up, right? So first of all, you guys can make your business very predictable by defining the number of people that need to be in your pipeline to close, and then creating a pipeline plan. We're going to actually talk about what that is, because these follow-up processes, when you automate this and you don't have to think about who to call next, you don't have to find the next deal, your relationship business will build a pipeline so that when they move, they'll pick up the phone and call you. Or when the realtors get a quick application or somebody they meet at an open house, they'll just pick up the phone and call you. So this recap of the database is your gold mine, is that the days of mass follow-up and buying leads, I mean, it has never worked, you guys. Never worked to a super successful result. You're in mass marketing, you're always going to get a 1% or less return. In fact, tracking internet leads and all this crap as close as we can. And I want you to keep this in mind for your real estate agents as well, because they're being told, buy leads, buy leads. I want more leads. I want more leads. And they're converting less than 1% of them, at the very best, maybe 3. Where if they would just capture the people that you're in relationship with, like you guys will do after today, then, and stay in relationship with them, they don't have to buy these leads. It's all in their database. Right? So you got to move people from haven't met. We've talked about this a lot, but people that don't know you yet, you're trying to get their attention to pick up the phone and call you so you can start a relationship. We got to move people into the relationship side. And once we do talk to them and connect with them, I'm going to show you some timeline plans that will absolutely make that relationship grow. So the goal in this program would be to add 5 new connections to your database every single day. Now, that doesn't have to be 5 new realtors, although your business would be totally out of control if you added 20, if you actually connected with 25 realtors a week, 100 realtors a month, you'd tap out your board in like no time at all. But think in terms of about a couple calls ago, we were talking about just how much business is sitting in your database from the people who know who you are, on your cell phone, right? Go to your contact records, and anybody on that contact list is who I'm talking about. Anybody that's a past client is who we're talking about. So you want to get those relationships moved into where you're connected, like you can actually just have conversations with them. And if they have any questions, you're influencing them to call you and ask you questions about the business, because you're their expert, right? But this is the key part. We're going to talk about staying in touch with them consistently and persistently. And I'm going to make this more conversational so you guys can jump in, write down any questions that you have while we're going through the slides. And we'll pull all this back in real world timeline follow-up things. So here's the challenge. We work really hard to get in front of people every single day. We spend the money to get a lead. We create a relationship with a real estate agent. We got a broker advertising deal with an office and all that other stuff. We're spending all this time and energy to get these names coming to us, and then we don't stay in touch with them consistently, including real estate agents, right? So your real estate agents, not only consumers, but your real estate agents, they're throwing these applications to who's top of mind and who stays in front of them the most. So one of the myths that I know as a top real estate agent is if you're bugging me, if you think you're connecting with me too much, I'll let you know. And in fact, it'll be really good because if we're really connected, it will be a conversation like, hey man, I'm sending you business. I will send you everything. You really don't have to check in on me every single week. And it'd be like, oh yeah, no, I know. I love working with you and I want to keep this relationship's important to me. I mean, that's what you would say. If somebody says, hey, you're bugging me, or they're deleting your stuff or take me off your mailing list, I'm going to tell you right now, you weren't ever connected in the first place. If you have typos in anything you're sending out, if you have ugly pieces, like sometimes we think we have to have these really professional pieces and really like wow them when they get it. That's not a connection person that we're talking about. That's not your pipeline business. That's trying to get someone's attention to call you. That'd be brand new business, like they don't know who you are. People that you have a relationship with will not ask to be removed from your mailing list. Or if they do, because this has happened a couple of times, it's like, Brad, you're my realtor for life. You really don't have to send me something every week. It's like, oh, I know. I just want to make sure I'm available for you when you need something. And then I know I can put them on a lighter plan. In fact, one of the plans that I'm going to show you today, how to stay top of mind with the real estate agents, financial planners, and your clients. If you follow this for 2, 3, 4 years, you're so connected with them that you can start lightening that up and maybe have half as many touches as you did for the first 5 years because your relationship is that strong. And over a 5-year period, we've talked about it many times that people are moving every 5 to 10 years. So if I really stay tight with somebody for 5 years, because from the time we meet until 5 years, if your market's moving at where they're moving every 5 years, I need to be this in touch with them for at least 5 years, not just for a year, not for 6 months, but for 5 years to make sure I capture 100% of everybody that I have a relationship with. Now, after 5 years, they're still probably going to move every 5 years unless the market changes, but I can start lightening up. I can cut all those touches in half because I've been in touch with them for 5 years. I can make half as many phone calls, half as many pieces in front of them, or transition. What will really happen is after 5 years, when you've captured, let's just say your list is 1,000 past clients and realtors, and over 5 years, you've done 1,000 closed loans, you probably have some assistants working for you now and or team members or junior LOs that now you can start transitioning that relationship from five year to 10 year over to them, and they can eventually take over that business and you can create a legacy business. Now, I did say, hold on questions, but I've kind of dumped a whole lot on you guys all at once. Does anybody have any questions or clarification on anything that I've said so far? I'm going to go mute that, by the way. All right. You guys hanging with me then? Is this a good recap so far?
Yeah, I got a quick question. So how do you come up with like new content to talk about? And what I mean by that is literally sometimes things can feel like they get mundane with a new relationship and you're reaching out and then it's like, I can't think of new things to talk about and stuff. Like, what do you do to generate new ideas? I mean, regular relationships, that's no problem, but like newer ones, don't know a lot about them. I'm sure you could check Facebook and stuff like that, but without coming off too creepy, how do you keep it from getting like a mundane
I'm going to give you
sales call lead?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the quick answer, but we're going to cover it again as we go through the plans. Okay. Content. Actually, everybody write this down. It's really simple. Content doesn't matter. Content doesn't matter. Now, what you're talking about, Jason, is if I'm looking for new business and I'm trying to find the next deal, if I'm in that mode and I'm trying to get in front of people that don't know me yet, or I don't have a relationship yet, that's called marketing. That's called the outer ring. And when I say haven't met group, people that don't know you or you don't know them, you're not really connected. Now, they may see your name or you may have seen their name, but what I'm talking about is you don't know if they have kids. You don't really know what side of town they live on. You don't know if they like to go to church on Sunday. You don't know if they have animals. Do they like pets? I mean, do they like dogs? Do they like cats? Have they lost a spouse? So what we're talking about is moving that group into this inner ring where you got a relationship, and content really doesn't matter. When you're trying to attract a new client, that's old school marketing. It all comes down to flashy, an incredible headline, and the most compelling call to action that they will pick up the phone and call me because they're missing out on something. And when a lot of people do marketing, think about it this way. When you do marketing, you are not like, if you create a really cool postcard, for example, or a banner ad that's going to capture these people and capture these leads. This is the group that we're talking about right now. That there's not, if you create the most compelling call to action, that is not lead generation. Because what you're doing is you're creating a piece and you're throwing it out there, and then you're waiting for lead receiving. You're waiting for them to be impressed or feel like they need your services to pick up the phone and call you back. It would be lead generation if I sent out a postcard and then I actually called everybody I sent the postcard to see if they got it. Does that make sense? So think about lead generation versus lead receiving. And I'm just telling you guys, this is high level, conversation here, that a lot of people are doing lead receiving, calling it lead generation because it feels good to say, oh, I worked hard on my lead generation today. I hit this whole neighborhood. That's mass marketing. And the days of mass are gone, right? It's always, 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 as far as I can see or even predict, it's going to be less than a 1% return forever. So we get caught up in that because it's hands off. I can hit 1,000 homes hands off with this postcard, and I can feel good today. Like I really worked hard today and got in front of 1,000 people. 999 and a half of them threw it in the trash, right? The only one that might be moving is actually the one that might get your card on the right day. And hopefully nobody else has stayed in touch with them and they don't have a relationship with anyone else that they could call as their expert. And that's the best part of today's conversation, because as I talk about these timelines and these drip plans and staying in touch with people, nobody in the industry is doing it yet. And when I say nobody, 99% of the industry is not following up well. So you guys have the upper advantage, even just being on this call today, or if you're watching the recording of it, you have the upper advantage because when I say I don't have any competition in the real estate business, it's because once you meet me, you can't get rid of me. Does that make sense? So we are going to talk about that, and content won't matter in what we're applying to today, because I'm assuming that you've talked to them on the phone and now you each know each other and you had a good conversation. So I am glad that you brought that up to really keep distinguishing what met or connected group is versus haven't connected. Did that help answer it a little bit, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go through. Anybody else got anything before we go through a little more content, and we'll bring this back around full circle? Is this good so far? Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. So what about the weekend group texts? Like, I don't know if anybody else uses that app called Reach, where it looks like it's just individual, but it's really not. Has anybody found any success with that? I mean, some people are like, just take me off your list. I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. But just to stay top of mind, how do you feel about that?
Yes. So I don't know who's using it, but you just described exactly what I was saying earlier, Claudia, is that when you put somebody on something and they ask to be removed, that means you haven't been connected with them. Here's where you're going to get the most power out of that Reach app, is that the only people that go on it are people that you've connected with. And when I say connected, let's put it in perspective like this. Connected means you actually picked up the phone and called me. You got Brad on the phone and we talked. Like, it wasn't, hey, I'd like to do a loan. Can you send me something? It's like, hey, congratulations on your success. I saw some of the awards on your website and it looks like you've been kicking butt this year. Just wanted to say, great job. Great. Well, now Brad would go on my Reach plan, and it might just be a text message that goes out once a month. So that might count as 12 of my touches over the year. but I'm only going to put people on the plan that I've actually connected with. And those messages will be really short and generic and look like like you just typed it to me, right? There's nothing worse than these text messages or messenger things that I get that say, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? You wouldn't do that with somebody that you're in relationship with. And I know it's a machine that's sending it to me. And I'm looking at it and it's like a really good friend of mine. And I'm just like, well, I don't have time for that. You know, he's automated it again. So this is even more funny. Another guy local here that I've known forever. And he talks to me all the time about these campaigns and action plans and follow-up systems for his business. He has a travel business. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's where you can offer travel certificates as lead generation source, whatever. So I just talked to him about, man, when realtors sign up for your program, you need a follow-up plan or a timeline like we're talking about today to lead up to me getting the service and then me using the service. And you need to remind me that I'm not using the travel certificate on a regular basis. So I get a messenger message from him and goes, hey, you may not know me well, but I know you're in the real estate business. It's like, I talk to the guy all the time. And I was like, Jimmy, you sent out a blast message last week, didn't you? He's like, yeah, I did. I got a couple calls on that. It's like, get out of the blast mindset, right? There is a time and a place for it, but we're talking about the people that you have relationships with. And this is the caution I'll put on front of this statement. Be cautious about how automated you do everything. There needs to be checkpoints in your automation to just make sure that you're not too automated and too robotic like we're talking about right now. Does that make sense? So that, because if you're focusing on relationship-based relationships, like where you're connected, the more automated it is and the more hands-off it is, the more of those things will happen where somebody you know actually says, or just doesn't respond or says, hey, take me off your list. But you really won't get it if you're connected well. So anytime you get that, just know, look at the name and go, do I know if they have kids? Have I been to their Facebook page to see what they've done last weekend? And maybe not. And let me stop there too, because I'm also not saying that you need to go look at 1,000, if you have 10,000 realtors in your marketplace, that you need to go look at 100 realtors Facebook page and see what they're doing every weekend. That's physically not possible either. But if I just had to open up 5 realtor Facebook pages today to see what Brad's doing, to see what Beth is doing, I open 5 today, 5 tomorrow, 5 the next day, 5 the next day, because my system says go check and see what they're up to, because it's time to make another connection. That's when Claudia would add them to the text message, right? So that's going to be one of your touches in your steps. And then back to what Jason was saying earlier, just keep in mind that the content is just it's like a soft bridge in between the next real connection, which is a phone call or a two-way conversation, either through text that's on purpose or a messenger message. So let me kind of get through the rest of this and write your questions down. I don't want you to forget. But so on this, we spent money. We're trying to get these people to call us. The realtors are playing a game of elimination. They don't want to go find a new mortgage person. They want to use the last person that actually made it through closing and got it done. So think about a lot of what you're doing in your relationship and your connections is that you're just another person. They're trying to eliminate you off the list. They're trying to find the one person that they can count on for every single deal, that there's no junk. There's no like the deal's falling apart. And not that we can guarantee every deal is going to close, but they're trying to eliminate you and take you off the list. Just like when you're being rate shopped and things like that. The consumers are trying to take you off the list, not keep you on the list. So you got to move into that relationship side. Okay, let me see where we are here. I know this was quite a bit of content right up at front, but I knew it was going to set the stage, and we're doing good on time though. Think about this. If you got 10 leads this month, right? And just think about what your process is now. If you have internet leads coming in, or you got realtors sending you some stuff or whatever, if you got 10 leads this month, 2 of them are ready to do something now or pretty soon. 8 are probably just starting the process. and 6, nothing really happens. Do these numbers look like, oh, those numbers don't actually add up?
Those numbers don't add up, buddy.
What's that?
That's why we're going to stick to the loans and you're going to stick to real estate.
Exactly. And that's the loan officer I'm looking for, right? So on this, if you had 10 leads come in, 1 of them are probably ready to do something. The rest of them, the 9, are either doing something soon or they just are doing the information process. Would you guys agree that that's probably pretty fair, right? It might even be more like 20 or 30 to get 1 doing something now, right? So that if you did that, if you got 10 leads this month and you got 10 and you got like 9 that are on the back burner and you got 1 that you're working with, well, next month you get it again. You get another 10 people, you get 1 or 2 that are ready. Now you got 16 leads on the back burner. You do it again next month, you got 10 more leads coming in. You got 1 or 2 that are ready to do something. And now you got more on the 8 more on the back burner. So in just 3 months, you got 24 people on the back burner that were starting the process while you're actually working with somewhere between 3 to 6 people. You guys see the numbers here? How the heck can you keep track of the 24 when you got your 6 that you're working on? And that's where the process gets kind of crazy. Does that make sense? Even though my math was wrong on the first part, it's right on the end part there. So that's where this timeline thing will happen, where you can put those 24 people on an on-purpose follow-up to make sure that something triggers you to tell you, hey, I need to check back in. And it can't just be an all automated thing, right? I can tell you from the real estate agent side, you know how many hundreds of internet leads come in that we literally, you need to call this lender and get the pre-approval process started. Then we have a trigger that pops up, says, call the lender 2 days later and see if they've called them yet. And then we got to call them back and go, hey, the lender says you haven't called them back yet. And in the meantime, they've gotten a letter and an email and a text that says, call the lender and get pre-approved. So if it were just all automation, call the lender, call the lender, call the lender, an email that just says, click the link and fill out the app, click the link and fill out the app. But I had no personal touch in there to check back in either with the lender or the client to see if they've even started the process, then it's just going to be on autopilot forever. Does that make sense? And what's really happening is they're just white noising these emails anyway. They're not even paying attention to it because they're too busy. Life is
Do you
busy.
CC the lender on your text messages?
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean they're checking it either. See, you guys are a little different. If you're doing that, you are in the top 1% of any LOs that's paying attention to the realtor CCing you on the loan and doing something about it. 99% of them don't do anything with the CC. They probably didn't even see the email. It's kind of scary, kind of scary. So anyway, this one, I just kind of wanted to go through some math real quick on what your lost opportunity is. So on the Mets or talk to over a year could be 120 people. If you were doing 5 people a day, 100 people a month, that's 1,200 people a year. I've talked about that number a lot. Let me slow that math down. If I connected with 5 people a day and I stayed in touch with them, and they're moving every 5 years, right? That's 5 people a day, 5 days a week is 25 people a month. Or yeah, 25 people a week, 100 people a month. And if I did that for 12 months, I'm going to have 1,200 people that I'm connected with and now have on a timeline to stay in touch with to make sure I don't lose track of them. Out of those 1,200 people, if they're moving every 10 years, it's 120 people moving every single year, right? For the next 10 years. It's 240 people moving. If they're moving every 5 years in your market, it's 240 people moving every single year, which that comes down to a lost opportunity. If we didn't stay in touch with the 24, we're missing over 96 transactions like a year out of those 24 times 12 months. Don't worry about the math. You guys get what I'm saying. Make sense? The lost opportunity is out of control. So if you're moving every 5 to 10 years and you have 120 leads a year, 24 of them will move this year, 24 will move next year, 24 will move the year after that. What if every year those 24 people that you did not stay in touch with, right? We're talking every single month, that adds up. That if you added those 24 to the next year, so do 5 a day every day for the first year. I got 1,200 people and I have 120 opportunities, right? And that's going to be 120 opportunities every year, which is about 10 to 12 people a month. But I add 1,200 people next year, I'm adding another 120 on top of the 120 that I'm going to get from the first year, because I'm going to get 120 opportunities every year for the next 10 years out of those 1,200 people. But if I add 5 more people a day on year 2, and I add another 1,200 people, I've got 2,400 people in the database now that I have on a system to stay in touch with. And you can see how 2,400 people, how the heck are you going to keep in touch with 2,400 people? There's no way you can make 100 calls a day every single day to keep up with this. No, but at 5 a day, you won't be making more than 10 calls a day to these 2,400 people, because you're spreading the calls out over the whole year. And so that 2,400 people now turns into 240 opportunities. Little side note, every realtor you add, you could show them this, they can get the 240 deals times 5 realtors. And that's your LOs that you see that are closing 1,000 loans a month and all these big numbers. Is you can leverage this through your real estate agents by tapping them into the database as well. All right, I got to get through this content because I want to show you guys some real timelines. That's the roller coaster of real estate. So what we're going to talk about are these timelines on the 3rd bullet here. Communicate with it consistently and persistently. And so I'm going to jump out of here and go ahead and get into some of the timelines. I'm going to show you a couple of them, what that might look like. And this is one of the easy ones. I call it the reconnect plan. And we've talked about this 2 calls ago. You guys have more loans available in your own database without ever getting another real estate agent's business, depending on how long you've been in business. But you all have 100 loans for sure, 10 loans a month for sure, just sitting in Facebook and your cell phone list. If you have 300, 500, or 1,000 friends on Facebook, they must have clicked like you guys know each other, right? And if you have 500 or 1,000 people on your contacts in your cell phone, then you've talked to them on the phone. We can eliminate some of those because some of them are real estate agents. However, for you guys, I mean, a real estate agent is still a potential refi or a purchase loan. So technically, you really shouldn't take anybody off your list, because everybody could do a loan with you or refi with you. Doesn't matter if they're a termite guy, doesn't matter if they're a financial planner, all that stuff, because everybody is a client for you. So everyone in your Facebook friends list and your cell phone is a potential client. So if you have somewhere around 1,000 to 2,000 people, it's like, all right, if I got on purpose, how many people have questions about that 1,200 that I was talking about? 5 a day, 5 days a week, 100 a month, 1,200 a year. And if they're moving every 5 to 10 years, there's somewhere between 120 to 240 moving. Anybody have any questions or need clarity around that? Would you guys agree?
No, but if you can get Movement Mortgage to give us a CRM that would allow us to pull good reports right now, Move Home sucks. Can anybody else agree with
Well,
that?
it's going away. It's
Yeah,
going away.
You got to do what you
And-
got to do. I mean, there's so many CRMs out there. I've been sitting in iJungle for years, and I have it open right now, and I'm doing my follow-up as I'm learning about doing follow-up. So there's so many options out there. Don't expect Movement to give it to you.
Well,
Yeah.
and let me give you the positive side of it. So I think I'm on database number 14 in my 30-year career. That the cool thing about a database, and this is how I want you to think about your database from now on. If we got into Move Home and we created some campaigns and action plans, and yeah, it sucked and it didn't come in, and they're actually getting rid of it anyway. Here's what I would challenge people to do, because this is what some people will do. Well, let's export all of those and we'll import them into the new one and start all the campaigns. We just went back to bulk mass thinking. This is what I want to break you guys up, because when I switch databases to a new database, and again, I don't know about the logistics of the time frame we have to do this, but when I switch databases and I've got 2,000 people in my database that I'm using now, and it sucks, and a little better one comes along that's got a better follow-up plan, a better reminder plan to make calls, and I'm going to switch. I don't export and import That creates total chaos for a week, takes me out of my productivity in my business because I don't know the new system. It jacks up people's names. The notes didn't transfer, let alone the plans. The reminder systems aren't going to communicate with each other. You guys get me here? Have you felt this pain? Anybody? So what you do is you take 5 people a day or 10 people a day if you want to do it faster, and you pick up the phone and call them out of your old database. Hey, I'm just thinking of you, checking in, move them into the new one, add them manually, start them on the right plan, get them on the right thing, go to the next person, move them over one by picking up the phone and calling them. Your database will be so clean and so fresh. The only thing is, if I have 2,000 people here, if I do 10 a day, it's going to take 200 days. So that is going to take me 1 year to move people out of my old database into my new database. But it's not just about moving people. It's about getting them on a follow-up plan, this timeline, to make sure you don't lose touch with them. The reason most people export and import is because they weren't doing anything before. So why not throw them in the new one and not do anything now? Put them on an automatic drip plan, automatic email. And anytime these database people get you all excited about, oh, we use videos in our emails. Okay, well, if I get 12 videos from you a year, you've lost the power of the video. But if I get 1 or 2 videos from you a year, 1 or 2 text messages a year, 1 or 2 phone calls a year, 1 or 2 pop buys a year, 1 or 2 messenger direct social media touches a year, then nothing is old. Does that make sense? So even like all these MailChimp and all these other things, if it's all one thing, it's just going to become white noise shortly after you start people on it. And if you're not connected with me, you've already become white noise with over 90% of them. Because what I have also figured out is you can stay in touch with about 10% of your database naturally. In fact, if you look at your list of people, list of past clients, list of realtors, and I had you put them all on a master list notebook, right? You got your master list notebook and you got all the people that are in there. You found their address, found their phone number, all that stuff. And this is what I feed to the new database. If you go through that whole list and you put all those names in a notebook that are on your Facebook friends list on your cell phone, just start going through and tell me whose names you can recognize and tell me anything about them. And all that means is we just have a list of people that we're not well connected with. So the database thing will never change. One thing that I've come to realization on is no one on the planet is ever going to create the ultimate database. Everybody's always going to have different databases using different sources. But I'll tell you what's critical in a database, that I can feed it quickly. It's even better if you have like a form, like a inquiring about a loan, or, on realtor sites where it says, I want to sell my house or buy my house, put in your name, your address, your phone number, and your email and hit submit. If you have that capture form somewhere on one of your websites, and you just started putting every connection you made into that to make sure it gets into your system, then you're capturing people quickly without having to log in, find the add a customer button, figure out where I got to put everything. You just lost all this time. So the quicker you can capture name, address, phone number, right? And then if it can come into the database and it says, if it comes in from that form and it starts a reminder plan, a campaign, or an action plan automatically, that's even better. And then the last thing that I think is pretty important is if that campaign or action plan will actually let you print stuff to your printer, so you can actually put it in an envelope, write a note at the bottom of the letter to the person you're sending it to. You actually see the letter. You're not mass mailing. You're mailing out 10, 20 letters a day, at least for the first year. If you feed 5 in a day, every single day, and let's just say 10, my 10th touch after I meet you, I mail you something, and I'm only doing 5 a day, then really that 10th touch will only be 5 letters a day every day once it hits that. You guys follow me on that? You'll see that a little better when I go through a couple timelines, because it's like if I have to make a personal social media connection, like I have to go to Messenger, type in a message and communicate with them, I'm only doing it with a few people a day because the system said it's time to do that. I'm not talking to the other people till the next day, the following day, the following day, the following week, the following month. Does that make sense? So like, let's just start with your list you have now.
Quick
And
question.
yeah, quick. Go
So
ahead.
how are you gonna mail something to someone that you've got their name and email address or name and phone number?
Did we plan this? Here's a reconnect plan. Here's a reconnect plan. This is your way to clean up your database. You're going to write every name of everyone that you don't have an app. Actually, everyone. Write down every single name. Put them like in this. I just created a spreadsheet because it's easier to see it this way. But if you put the name of everyone down and all you did was fill in these next 3 lines with what you do have. So you're going to have a lot of phone numbers and you're going to have a lot of emails, but you're going to have a lot of not addresses, right? So in a reconnect plan, this thing is 4 touches, 4 touches. The first is going to be a letter that you mail. Oh my gosh, I don't have their address. So I'm only going to be able to mail the ones that I have their address. But if my first touch is a letter that says, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, and you don't have their address, you can either pick up the phone and call them, right? But then you don't have to send the letter that says, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. You're going to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, where are you living? Are you still on ABC Street or wherever? I'm going to show you actually a place where you can fill in the gaps on some of these. But this is a reconnect plan. So this is how you're going to get reconnected with everyone that's on your list to move them from being in the mass asking to be removed from your list back to a personal touch. It all does start with a phone call and then a handwritten note. Those are the 2 key factors. But if you're starting with an old list and here's what I know. If I told you all to call them all today, call 5 a day, every day, you're going to look at 90% of the names on the list and go, I have no idea who this person is. I'm not just going to call them out of the blue. So this reconnect plan, I cheated a little bit. And this letter that it says right here, touch 1 is a letter. I'm going to fill in everybody that I have an address for. I'm going to mail them a letter. And the letter is just going to say, hey, it's been a while since we connected. I apologize for not keeping in touch. So we've talked about this reconnect plan on some of our other calls. I don't remember which call it's on, but I'll find that one. It's in the recording on your database as a gold mine. That's where you're going to find this reconnect plan. But that just says, hey, it's been a while since we connected. I'm going to give you a call in the next couple of days. Now on this spreadsheet, what I've done is I've created, this is a 4-touch reconnect plan. So I've got 4 columns of things to do. And you'll notice too, that when you create these plans, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to recap this on the PowerPoint, but you want to mix up your mediums on each column. Don't make them all email. Don't make them all letters. Don't make them all calls. You're going to mix up the mediums. So if I just determine I want 4 touches to reconnect, I want to call, write them a note, and add them to the next plan, or send a letter that says I'm going to call. And if I don't have their address, the email is going to go and follow up 4 days after the mail would show up. So let me play this out first, but let me just walk through it. I'm going to send a letter that says, I haven't talked to you in a while. I'm going to call you in a few days. You can see that this says 4 days later, I want to send an email that is basically the same exact thing as the letter that says, hey, I'm going to call you in the next day, because now you know they got their email, right? Did you get my letter? I'm going to call you in a day. I want to catch up and see how you're doing. So it's basically the same thing as the letter. And then 1 day later, I'm going to make a phone call. And then really the same day after I get off the phone with them, I'm going to write them a handwritten note. And then I'm going to start the next plan. So the way this plan, I wanted 4 touches. I really wanted to call and write a note, but I didn't have everybody's address. And I feel weird calling everybody if I had 1,000 people here. So I'm sending the letter and the email as my little gamification to actually say in the letter and the email, watch for my number to come across your screen. I'm going to call you and check in. Then it forces me to do the next 2 steps, which is make the call. And then I'm going to write the handwritten note to move it from being an old stale connection to a reconnected person. Does that make sense? Any questions on that so far? So
Hey, Brad, this is Amy. What happens if you cannot get them on the phone? Do you just continue to try day after day?
Yeah. So look at this spreadsheet, guys, and I'll send these to you if you want. What's coming up here? Oh, I don't know what that is. Microsoft popping in on my stuff here. Go away, go away, go away. How does that go away?
Click on see
Yeah.
more.
There we go. All right. So in that particular plan, if I have not gotten them on the phone yet, so let's say you mailed the letter, the email went out, you haven't gotten them on the phone. With this particular spreadsheet, guys, you're going to see, I'm going to kind of come down here a little bit. You can see where I did complete step 1, I did complete step 2, I did complete the call. But now I'm at the call on this particular one. So I'm not going to fill in a date until I get them on the phone. So every day that goes by, then I know, like if I called them and they didn't answer, I'm not filling in the date. But once they answer the phone call, then I'm going to fill in the date and then send the note. Does that make sense? I'm trying to, this came up in a coaching call when Move Home started, when we knew we were going to lose Move Home. It's like, how the heck, like you're going to probably have 25 realtors that you want to stay in touch with. So let me show you a top of mind plan that I kind of, that this might even make a little more sense on this plan. If I can get this, there we go. So this would be your brand plan. Let's just say you're gonna reconnect with a realtor. So even if, whether you did the reconnect plan or not, you could have the realtors, the 25, 15 realtors that you want to do business with. Find their phone number, find their address, find their email. That's real easy to find if it's real estate agents. And then what I've got is the very first thing I'm going to do is send a note after our phone call, because the only way I can get to write the note is to call them, pick up the phone, and now I'm going to add them to the list. Did I send the note to follow up the phone call? Right? And if I did, I write the date that I mailed the note. Now, if I look 7 days later, if I want to brand myself so that when they think of loans and they think of finance or they think of approvals, that you're the first person they think of. The marketing study that was done was 8 touches in 8 weeks will brand you. And if I'm creating that as my timeline, so I saw this thing, it's like, man, 8 touches in 8 weeks and I'm branded. Well, and actually, let me pause, because if anybody thinks for 1 second, whew, Brad, 8 touches in 8 weeks, they're going to tell me to take them off their mailing list. Okay, who did I say has to be removed from your mailing list? People that you're not connected with. So that means you skipped the phone call and tried to go right into something and mail them something, email them something, whatever. Or you had a phone call and it was so short and quick, they didn't give you the time of day. That's not a connection yet, right? Because I'm not going to spam somebody 8 things in 8 weeks. These are the people that I actually connect with, had a two-way good conversation. And if that first note that goes out just says something like, hey, it was great connecting, looking forward to keeping in touch, congratulations on whatever, or whatever it is that you talked about on the phone call, don't make it about you at all. Just drop the note in the mail. That's going to move you over into a new realm where they're not going to read the next 8 things you send them, but they're going to see your name and they're going to see Movement Mortgage and they're going to know you're a mortgage professional. Loans, 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 and that's going to brand me. But when I start out with these, when I draw this timeline out, if I want 8 touches in 8 weeks, because I want to be branded, I want to create that relationship, then I put in the second thing I do is I mix up these mediums. So if I did an email this week, I need to do mail next week. If I did mail and email in the last 2 weeks, I want to do a call another week. Let's see, a text. We got a social media touch. Mix it up so that they only get 1 email in 2 months. They only get 1 or 2 things in the mail in 2 months. They do get 2 phone calls in 2 months. Week 4 and week 8 are like 2 of the key things, because the more personal touches, which you'll see here as we wrap up the call, are where you get your 10x factor. Now, after I go through 8 weeks and I've done this, and all I'm doing is opening up my spreadsheet at the beginning of the day, I got my list of people I want to do business with. So if you look here, it's Emory agent. I have not done the first connection yet. So Emory and I haven't even talked on the phone and connected yet, but I need to add 5 new people to my database today. So I'm going to start with Emory and I'm going to call through these numbers until I get 5 of them to answer. And if I get Jerry to answer, he goes under today, right? So now I'll know that Jerry, I've had the call in on the 10th. So if it's around the 17th next month and I see this blank here from the 10th, I know it's time to do the next step. So I called Jerry, got him on the phone. I sent him the note. Now, 7 days later, I should have a date in here where I send him an email. Once you figure out what the plan is, you can figure out what the content is later. And this simple one, what I would say is your brand plan, and we can really define the content on your individual calls as well, or what these things are. But the brand plan is the to-dos and note, the very first thing. The second thing is I would just shoot them an email with a link to my loan application. So picture this. You connect with them enough that you can write a note and you verified the address. So then 7 days later, they just get an email that says, oh, by the way, here's the link to my online loan application if you need to get a quick approval, right? And then a week later, when I get to Jerry, if I did this on 6/17, so now I'm moving down the line to we're towards the end of June, and let's just say it's the 30th. I realize, oh crap, I haven't done anything with Jerry in the last 12 days, 13 days. I was supposed to do it at 7. So what am I supposed to do for Jerry next? Mail. Send them, and this is where I said keep it simple so you can move through these things fast. Go to your About Me page on your Movement Mortgage website, right click and print, and send just print one page. Send it to your printer. I've done it on pretty much everybody's website. Pretty much your picture, Movement Mortgage, and your paragraph about you will fit on the first page. It might even put some stuff like your address and stuff on there if you have that on your About Me page. Print off one page in color, put it in an envelope and mail it to them. And you'll start having fun with this because Jerry, now you're on week 4 and you're kind of starting to pay attention to what Jerry's doing, or you guys are bumping into each other, whatever. You had a great conversation that you might write a note. Hey, Jerry, super cool to see you this last weekend. Maybe I just saw him out and about over those next couple of weeks. So I could just write, great bumping into you last weekend. You could chicken scratch things on your letter if you want. But then another 7 days is going to go by. So once I do that, another 7 days goes by, and I want to make sure that every 7 days I'm doing one of these things. So wherever you have blanks in your dates, that's your next focus, your on purpose lead generation or follow-up for the day. So it's time to call Jerry because we called back on the 7th and we haven't done anything yet, right? And then the last thing would be a text to their email or a text for that app. Keep it simple. Say, hey, I don't know if you got my email a couple of weeks ago. Here's the link to that online loan app if you need a quick approval. I do watch these on the weekend or whatever you want to say. And so I'm only sending that out to about 5 people a day, but I'm also sending it to Jerry, who I connected with, who I wrote a handwritten note to, who I've sent the link to an email, who I've sent my resume to, and now I'm sending them a text. And so in the text, you could say, be sure to save this link on your phone so you have it. And if you sent that to me and you had stayed in touch with me, really, like if you're in my market and you did this, I would be like, oh yeah, I probably do need to save that. And I would have you saved in there and I would know I have that loan app to forward to people. The last thing would be, or not last thing, the next touch 7 days later, go find me on social media and send me a direct message. Here's what's funny about week 4, when you make the phone call, they'll talk more about the note you sent them than anything else. Your phone call is going to be about 10 seconds. It's literally going to be, hey, Brad, how's it going? I haven't talked to you in a little while. Or it's just great or not talk to you. I just want to say how great it was catching up with you and keeping in touch. Oh man, I got your note in the mail. Thank you so much for sending it. That's what you're going to hear 90% of the time. It's like, well, I just want to keep in touch, man. I respect your business and I love what success you've had. And I want to help you grow your business this year. Oh, cool. Well, that's all I really had. Hang up. Right. And if they say, no, don't hang up. I've got a loan app I need to get you. That's almost what you want to get to. You don't want to call them up and go, hey, do you have any loans this week? Seriously, if I would have had a loan, I would have given it to you. You've stayed in touch with me better than anybody has. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about here is the long-term top of mind plan. So this one is where it starts to get a little crazy because I'm going to every 11 days for the next year, I'm going to keep in touch. There's 36 touches on this plan. And again, my person is right here. So I'm just going to, once they've gone through the 8-touch plan and I'm branded, now I can start spreading things out and have less phone calls. I mean, you can have a phone call every quarter at this point. You don't need to call a real estate agent every single month that's not doing loans with you. because when they do loans with you, you're going to be talking to them regularly throughout that process. This is the on purpose part to when you see a name and it's been 4 months and you have not talked to them or you don't recognize the name. That's the saving grace to make sure you connect and just say, hey, how's things going? Are you closing any deals? So those are the timelines I wanted to show. And then I wanted to be able to open that up for questions if you guys had something on any of this. Is this good stuff? Are you guys getting this? You guys see the power of the follow-up here? Okay, let me shut up for a second, see if there's any questions, clarity.
If I can probably speak to maybe what a few other people are feeling. I don't know if Eddie said it or maybe Jason. It's not so much the how, it's the mechanics, because I think a bunch of us have been frustrated with, first we had Total Expert, then Move Home, now Scratch That. And we spent a lot of time trying to learn the new way. So like, what do I do in the morning? Like, do I open up an Excel spreadsheet? Because at this point, I don't really trust anything else other than my own spreadsheet, because then it's my information. I know, any salesperson knows, you put it in the company's database, it's theirs. So God forbid something happens to you, what are you gonna do? It just, I wanted to use like the most simple way to, okay, it's Friday morning, these are the 5 people you're going to call. Like, that's what I'm like, what do I do? I know some of my colleagues are using Jungo because they're just got fed up, right? Sounds like Eddie's using that.
Well, and so that's where I think that if you're going to have a spreadsheet, this is probably the ideal thing to have. Not just a list with names and numbers on it, Claudia, because then what we're doing is every day we're coming to the list and we're going, okay, I'm going to start at the top and I'm just going to call through, and I'll call 3 or 4 and the phone rings. And then I'm swamped in the day taking care of stuff, right? And then the next day it's like, okay, where did I leave off at? And this will actually, and this came up in a coaching call, this will actually tell you the last time you made a connection with them. So it's almost like, whoa, I haven't talked to a lot of these people in a year. If you're coming to this spreadsheet and I'm looking at gaps here between my touches, I've got to get these things filled in, right? That means if I was looking at this, I haven't made any touches to my database at all. I hate the double entry thing. However, we're never, ever going to get away from this database issue. So it's almost like if you just think of this as the personal touch plan, this spreadsheet, these people would still go in the database. If let's just say the new database comes out, and if I created a campaign that said every 7 days, do the next touch, pull up on my dashboard and show me it's time to call, then I can put these people into the database, 1 at 5 a day, every day throughout the year until I put 1,200 people into the new database, right? And let's just say we get 6 months in, I've got 650 or 650 people in, and then the database goes to crap. I'm just going to be taking 5 people a day back out and putting them into the next database. But this spreadsheet will be the backup. Like if my database says, call the person today, I could still mark it down in here. Does that make sense? So that you have it. Or if you know you're using a system, you're going to wait till everybody's moved over from the spreadsheet at 5 a day into the new plan. When that plan is running, you don't have to necessarily take track of it on a spreadsheet. But if this database goes away, now I've got the spreadsheet sitting there to make sure I can put the last date of everyone in there. That would take some time, but your database is a gold mine. So I could move them back onto this sheet and make sure they're on whatever follow-up plans I've created in the database. So I have hundreds and hundreds of campaigns and action plans in my database. That's why it takes almost a year or 2 to move them into a new one when we move. But if the current one sucks, right now I'm challenged with 14,000 contacts on so many different plans, and the current one sucks. I mean, we got to manually move them out of that one, and it's going to take forever. But we got to make sure they're on the right plan and in the right database, whether that's printing off a master list or however you're going to do it. That's the logistics side that might happen when you have to change. But this is just, think of this as just your personal touch plan. Maybe the database just manages the contracts and the things through unless you really like it, and then you can start moving people in. Does that answer your question a little bit better? I may have
But
talked.
also,
Yeah, go
I'd
ahead.
also throw into that. First off, I like the way you have it on the Excel sheet, the touch points. Are you going to be sharing this Excel sheet with us just so we can?
Absolutely. I'll give it to all of you. Like I said, all I did was take my automated campaign and action plan and turned it on its side and created a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I like that. And then the other thing I would throw in there, just to kind of answer Claudia's question, I use personally Google Drive, and I use Excel sheets in Google Drive, and you can literally just access it right from your phone or your computer and stuff, and then it'll just load up right there. You have it wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. I put my pipeline in there. I put my master list for real estate agents and stuff like that. But I do want to implement what you're doing, Brad, and add these touch 6, touch 7, touch 8s to it, because that's kind of like the whole content thing I was talking about earlier. That's a good idea, a good way to do it and keep track of the last time you did it. Right now, I just have it as last point of contact, and I essentially have like notes. So I like what you're doing.
Yeah, and this would be like bomb. This would be my assistant. You could even divvy out these steps to other people. This could be your assistant or your marketing person, and this is you, right? So that means that if this were on a Google Drive, then I'm coming in, my team members are coming in every day to see what are the next white gaps that are open and when was the last touch done, so they can make sure they're doing that on it. And it doesn't matter if I do it on 5 days after or 9 days after, it's just that it's happening about every 7 days. So yeah, so I love what you're saying there. Okay, so let me just kind of pull this together. Maybe this will help you guys just a little bit more. Whenever you're doing plans or timelines, set them up on paper first. What does it look like? How many touches do I want to make? So I'll give you a couple examples. So we heard about a builder plan. So a builder plan, I'm not going to get it with just trying to get through on the phone call and one call and then send them a thank you note, and then all of a sudden they're going to do business with me. So what's my plan going to look like for a builder? Well, one of the plans might be like, if you have a parade, do you guys have parade of homes or home tours or things like that? No. Some markets have parade of homes where they win awards on their house or whatever. Whatever that plan is, maybe they are featured in a magazine, maybe they've won some plan award from somebody, it's a chamber thing, whatever. I'm going to create a 7-touch or an 8-touch plan. From the time I get them on the phone to go through, I would probably send them the same one that I just gave you. That's so generic. You can put anybody on that, right? Not a consumer, but you could put any realtor, builder, anybody that would need to approve somebody for a loan can go on that 8-step plan I just showed you. Call, note, send an email with a link to the app so you can get people approved real quick, a letter resume, a text message with the link to the app again. See where I'm going with this? A social media touch. Everybody can go on that. It's very generic. But for that builder plan, there was one where whenever this parade happened, we would actually talk about congratulations on, your new subdivision or your award that you got. And then it was like 7 days later, they got an email link to maybe where they were featured or something. That would be me manually doing that. Then they would get a text message that said something like, hey, how's the new construction going in the neighborhood since the parade's over? And then they would start getting messages around, has your traffic dropped off since you did this big event? If you would like to get your traffic more consistent, I'd love to meet with you and show you the 10 things we do to make you a common household name for new construction. And then there's a phone call in there where I call and go, hey, wanted to make sure you were getting my stuff. So builders are kind of a little bit more unique because you still have to get through the gatekeeper. You're not going to get them on the first call, most likely. So maybe there's a plan that I have to create for the gatekeeper to get them to love me, right? And that could be like on a phone call, just, hey, what's your biggest challenge that you guys are having right now, or whatever. And then you start filling the gaps with your content on that. But it really could, once you get a builder on the phone or that gatekeeper, I would put them on that generic 8x8 plan. So design it out on paper. If it's 12 touches, 22 touches, 36 touches, whatever the touches are, write your timeline. So starting today for the next 2 months, how many dashes do I have? And I will make this one an email, this one a letter, this one a text, this one an email, this one a call, this one a social media touch, and then fill in the content later. because the content doesn't matter. Does that make sense? And then, but the more personal touches you have in there, the better it will be. So this is a sample of that brand plan. It's like send a note, then a resume, then an email. This one had a lot more emails in it. Well, it's actually a mix between letters and emails. This is just an old plan that we created, but that's like 5 touches, 6 touches, 7 touches.
Real quick,
Yeah.
can you go back to that last one?
Yep.
So I understand the whole concept of the brand plan, but what about, so, and that's good for agents, for us to reach out to agents with that brand plan. What about leads? Is there
Consumers?
Do we have a separate,
Yeah, guess who goes on this plan in my world?
calisthenics or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, so guess who goes on this plan in my world? Same person you're talking about.
Your agent?
Yeah, no, if I'm an agent, Brad Korn, real estate agent, who do I put on this plan? The consumer.
Yeah, but we can't wait a whole week to get in touch with somebody. Like within the first week of getting a lead, I'm calling them immediately.
Yep.
I'm texting them, and I'm sending them an email within the first couple of days.
Yep. No, so that's okay. So there's your timeline. That one is the 8x8 branding plan is for those 24 people that I connected with that aren't doing anything right now. What you're talking about is a lead conversion plan to get them converted into filling out an app, right?
I think that's, yeah, I mean,
You're taking
yes.
the lead.
I mean, I love going after agents, but the agent partners that I have that are sending me leads all the time, I gotta have the right, why am I having a brain fart on the word? But the right spacing in between and giving them a call. And that's I can't wait a week to call them.
So let's look at this. This is a new lead. So I would draw my timeline out first. The timeline looks like I got to make a whole bunch of touches till I get them to fill out the app and do the stuff, right? Well, first of all, I might have to call them every day for 3 or 4 days to even get them on the phone, right?
Yeah.
So my lead, my internet lead that just came in would be here. Maybe they gave us a phone number. We don't have an address, and we would have gotten their email, right? Because they filled out a lead online, for example. Is that kind of what we're talking about? So my very first touch is a call, and that's on day 1. This happens 1 day later. I got a call again. And this happens 1 day after that, a delay of 1 day, and I got a call again. And their name is gonna sit on this spreadsheet until I get them on the phone. So I would put my date that I made the last call, but as soon as I get them on the phone, then I'm gonna move them back over to the 8x8 plan. I'll take them off of that spreadsheet and put them on this spreadsheet. Are you following me?
I am.
Now
I hear you. I don't do spreadsheets.
No, I know. This could be a campaign or an action plan or whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if you get 20 internet leads, you have to have a way to see who you're not following up with every day till you get them on the phone.
Right.
So this is the concept. Now, if you have a campaign or action plan built into a database that you're using, it would literally say 1 day later, make a call again. 1 day later, make a call again. 1 day later, make a call again. Once I get them on the phone, I stop that plan and start the next plan. Now, if I get them on the phone, 24 of those people are just looky-loos, not really doing anything, not urgent yet. But I got 6 or 7 or 8 hot people. The hot people get them on the phone finally, and they fill out the app, and you're processing it, and they're approved. They go on approved to contract plan. What's that timeline look like? How often do you stay in touch with them? You got to send them reminder things in the middle to keep the process moving. You got your checkpoints built in to see if you've gotten all their information. You following me? But 24 people are just going to go on that 8x8 brand plan because they haven't really moved past the process yet. Right. And if even during the approved to contract plan, I'm doing my checkpoints and they haven't gotten their stuff in and now they're kind of ghosting me a little bit, I'm just going to take them off of that spreadsheet and put them on the 8x8 spreadsheet and move them back into relationship. And that's going to pop up a call in week 4, on week 8, right? So it is that this is just the manual way we came up with because databases change. But when you have a database you're using, turn those into those campaigns and action plans and just start and stop the plan. Take them off of this plan and put them on that plan. Same with switching your database. When you pick up the phone and call them and write them a handwritten note, and you use that as your filter to reconnect with your whole database, you got an old database you're using, move home. I'm going to go through my list every day as fast as I can. And the goal is at least to get 5 moved into a new way, whether it's a spreadsheet or whatever. So I would call these 5 people, and as I connected and wrote the note, and I put them, say you don't have another database yet, so you're going to use the spreadsheet. You're going to put them in the spreadsheet, and you're going to delete them out of Move Home. So that when I go back to Move Home every single day, I'm just starting with the next person that I haven't connected with yet, and keeping with those phone calls to get them onto my spreadsheet. That makes sense? So you add them to the new system, whatever you're doing to keep in touch, and delete them out of the old system. But everybody sitting in the old system hasn't been connected with yet. And you could get a shutoff date, for example. Well, we're shutting it down. It's all going to disappear on this date. So I'm going to keep working through those as fast as I can, getting them into my system, because it doesn't do any good to export and import until shutoff day. On shutoff day, whatever's left in there, I am going to export that into something so I can keep pulling them from the list and reconnecting with them. Now, what I just described right there means you're going to physically communicate a 2-way conversation with every single person that was in your database. You're going to call them, write them a handwritten note, and start them on a new follow-up plan. But yeah, Ed, like you were talking about, we're bringing an internet lead in is back into the haven't met group. And we've got to get them to like us and trust us first. And we got to become somehow, they got to know what the value is of connecting with us. So that may take more consistent calls and emails and texts to get them broke over to where we can start the relationship. 2 different plans, right? And so here's another one. I'll end on this. When that plan, so what Ed was talking about, that internet plan, let's just say I'm going to take 45 days to get these dang people on the phone from the internet. My goal is in 45 days, I should have them converted. If in 45 days, I have not gotten them on the phone, then that plan is a monthly email for the rest of their life. And when they leave that internet conversion plan, which was 3 calls in the first 3 days, and then maybe 1 on day 5, and then maybe 1 12 days later. And in between, they're getting some emails. They're talking about, hey, you're missing the market. Hey, this, hey, that, whatever the communication is, to just kind of keep them plugged in. A couple of things you drop in the mail if you have their address, those kind of things, text messages, whatever. When they get to the end of that plan and I haven't connected with them and they're still on that spreadsheet, now I move them onto the forever drip plan. I'm going to send them 12 emails, put them in something that's autopilot, and they come off that spreadsheet and they're just on that. There is no reason for me to call 100 people who I have not connected with in 45 days. This kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation. There's 100 people I haven't communicated with and gotten on the phone in 45 days. Why do you need to keep calling them every month forever? Really, put them on a 12 email. Hopefully 1% of them will generate into some business, maybe 2, maybe 3%, and then you can move them back onto a better plan. But you're going to have 98 people that will never do anything. And there's no reason for you to take up the time making a phone call forever on those people when you've got 100 more that just came in the last couple months, and 100 more and 100 more. So it's just eventually everybody will make it to the 1% conversion rate because you've never connected with them and they didn't want to communicate with you. But that way you're focused on the people that you're actually having 2-way conversations with. So anyway, from my world, it sounds like this came out way more complicated than I thought. But did you guys receive it in the easy format that I thought and expected you to receive it in? Or did I make it more confusing?
I get it. I work a little differently. That's all. Everybody works a little bit differently, right? And if any of you guys would like to see Jungo and how it works in the back end, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll schedule a time with you and walk you through. It's a great piece of software. It's a database and it's all
You want to throw that throw your email in the chat just to make sure everybody has it. But yeah, guys,
we're all at Movement, so anyone could type in my name.
That's true.
Into Teams and I pop right up. So,
but you're under Ed, right?
Ed Belinkie, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make sure because your screen name shows Eddie.
Yeah, that was my rebranding during COVID. Much friendlier name than Ed.
So where you're sitting is ideally what I coach to is creating a campaign and action plan, because as you add new people in and you hit start the plan, guys, it will tell me in 14 days or 28 days, it's time to call this person, because there's a dashboard at the opening of the database. And that's what I open up every single day. And I just print off my calls for the day or my to-dos to send the note. See, there's another thing. You make connections all day long. And in this crazy tornado that we live in, you add some new people in, but it was so busy, you didn't write the handwritten note. That takes the longest part. But if you skip that step, then you're still just always, you're not really moving over into the world where they'll process everything, because the note makes them feel good. It's like, oh man, Ed of all people wrote me a note. That's pretty cool, right? And so once I get that, now when I see stuff from Ed, I'll actually pay attention to it twice as much as I would if I didn't get the note. And it's the limbic part of the brain that is our process. It's the processor. You guys have already done this today. Go back and look at your deleted emails. Somebody probably sent you an email in the last couple of days that said, hey, you want to blow up your mortgage business? We can show you how to get 20 leads from Facebook. And you deleted it. You didn't even pay attention to it because your limbic part of the brain's like, I don't even know who that person is, let alone telling me I can get 20 closed deals from Facebook. So that's happening out there in the real world with the realtors you're marketing to the consumers. But when you pick up the phone, call them and write the note. Now, if I sent you a thing, if I sent any of you a thing said, hey, it's Brad, I seriously have a guaranteed way to get 20 deals off of Facebook. Every one of you would pay attention to that and probably call me and go, I want to be a part of that, because you know that we've got systems and plans and all that. And I wouldn't send you that email if I didn't know how to get 20 deals off Facebook. Does that make sense? Because you know I wouldn't waste your time. But when you get stuff from strangers, you don't know who they are from Adam. So you can close my deal better than anybody else. I don't even know who you are. How do I know that? I don't have time to figure that out right now. And then you get blocked. So that's where we're moving people from that outer ring, the 1% conversion rate, to it's about 10 times more business. So the more personal touches you have built in, the bigger impact you'll get on your follow-up. Good stuff. We'll keep expanding on this on these group calls. And then what you want to do is take whatever is resonating or whatever's getting you excited and you're really trying to figure out what the next step is. That's your one-on-one calls. So if you're not on my schedule for this month for your one-on-one calls, you're about to get the open times that I have, so you can grab those and get on the one-on-one calls. And that's where we can talk about where you are in your business and how this would apply to you. So Ed and I's conversation is going to be totally different. We won't even talk about spreadsheets. We're going to talk about how to really turn those campaigns into crazy plans. But if you don't have a database like Claudia, it's like, what the heck am I going to do here? We got a plan to get everybody out of that database and still stay in touch with them and not lose touch with them. So everybody's one-on-one conversations are a little different, but the concept is what I want you to get here. So we're going to keep this rolling. And if you don't have access or I haven't sent you any of the past videos or anything, just shoot me an email and I'll give you the link to the YouTube channel so you can go in and check out some of the other stuff that we've done in the past. Was this good today, guys?
Yep.
Was it super
Yes.
powerful, super worth your time?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will be talking in the next couple of weeks on our one-on-ones. See y'all. Have a great month.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
you.
Brad.
Bye.